Ready?
So dramatic.
The work is called Ordering the Public. So during the Performing Public Art Festival, at different times in certain public areas in central Vienna, a particular behaviour is no longer permitted for the duration of the performance. This isn't really announced to the public. Instead, security guards, who are performers but who are real security guards, have the job of enforcing these new laws in public space. And the sorts of behaviours that are now forbidden are pretty innocuous things. They're not dangerous or suspicious things. So talking too loudly or lying down in a public park, that sort of thing, walking too slowly in a shopping area. So when members of the public break these unannounced rules, it's the job of the security guards to approach the members of the public and tell them and ask them to desist from the forbidden behaviour in public space. The work comes from an ongoing interest we have in all the different ways in which public space is regulated and controlled, both from kind of policing through to airport security or lines on the ground that people sort of internalise and know that mean that you can go here but you can't go there. And it's connected to a kind of wider inquiry into, I guess, the nature of public space, what's permissible in public space, and then how this is regulated and controlled by all sorts of different apparatus.
So in this work, we're interested in people's reaction to authority, like when they're asked not to do something, will they comply, will they obey, or will they resist and question the instructions they're being given? And we're kind of interested in all of those sorts of reactions. So here in Vienna, we've seen a lot of people kind of say, if they're told not to do something, they'll do it, but they'll say they're complaining to someone later down the track. It's like, I'll tell the government or the public body, but then there's that kind of interesting deferred kind of complaint, which is interesting. It's like they know they can't complain to these authority figures directly because they're just the kind of dog's bodies, I guess. And then you get the people who do resist. Today I watched a man, he was told he couldn't lie down, so he sat up. But when he saw the performers move away, he then lay down again. And then when he saw them approach, he then sat up again. So I like those little moments where you can see someone kind of resist a little. And I guess that's what the work is about, is trying to undermine authority somehow, whether it's like through people watching the documentation or through people being told these things. So yeah, we deliberately try to not say it's an artwork. So when the performers go and tell someone off, that person's not going to necessarily realize that they've been involved in an artwork. And we do this deliberately because I think if you frame something as an artwork, someone can have that critical distance, and they don't have that I don't think it has the same effect. Whereas if someone's kind of slightly fooled by it, but then has this weird feeling that something's not quite right, then perhaps that feeling, they carry that feeling with them later on, so that next time, you know, a tram inspector tells them off or a bouncer tells them off, they might kind of question whether it's real or not real. And we're kind of interested in that, like just sort of, like I say, undermining authority somewhat.
An interesting question that we often think about and talk about is the way that effectively in our works we end up kind of mimicking all these unpleasant kind of authoritarian structures, you know, and thinking about, you know, what is it that makes people comply? And I think this is an important part of the way we think about our work. We don't make the sort of work about politics that wants to create like a nice space or like a utopian space that like presents a better world. We're more interested in over-identifying with what currently exists, maybe making it just slightly worse for a moment, or slightly more absurd as well. So not only, I hope, because we are sadistic, it's a kind of a strategy to get people to, I guess, think again about what happens in public space, or think again about what's permissible or how they relate to authority. And I suppose also how easily those things can be undermined, because we do draw attention to the kind of theatrical nature of a lot of the way we understand authority. It's interesting to see the power that is given to some security guards with no real authority, but just the power that comes from them wearing a sort of like a fluoro jacket or something like that. And I think these kind of theatrical elements is kind of what the work is about. I'm sure there's probably a small element of sadism in there somewhere, but just, you know, just a touch.
How's the flag?
Yeah, I like the flag.
I like the flag.
Yeah, the flag.
As I'm talking about like sadism and like a flying.
I like the flag.
It's not disturbing, but
It
it's
could be
there.
absurd.
It's really there.
Yeah, it's kind of fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a sunny
Yeah,
day.
I
It's
like
fine.
the flag. It's nice.
So it makes us feel at home.
Yeah, I'm Australian. I'm used to being surrounded by flies.
You want one?